Good morning, traders. Welcome to the daily webinar. For the general public and YouTube, this one will be out for you. My apologies for not being earlier. I had personal reasons. I couldn't be here earlier. So starting from now, you will get your weekly outlook. And a lot of the traders who were with us last year signed up for the installment program. What that means that they will have the chance to join us live twice daily. They will have this recording that we do with more details. So we do this every day. A recording with a lot of details and all the charts that you see on my list are recorded, and they get a recording of that. Plus, they get to join us live in the London session and the New York session. So if you're watching this video for the first time and you would like to join us, probably the first thing you want to do is go watch some more of my videos. Look at the method I use, decide if that is helpful for you, or if you would like to learn it, and then send me a message on Skype. The Skype is always in the description. So at the starting of the year, let me wish everybody Happy New Year, wish you success this year. And let's start. So dollar index. What we're going to do for all the majors is we're going to look through everything from the very start downwards, right? So let's start with monthly. And if you were with me last year, if you were watching my videos last year and you followed, you would know exactly what was our forecast last year. Our forecast last year was this is going to go up and break this top. And when we break that top, at some point after breaking the top, it's going to come back down. Because we're looking at this as a possibility that this might be a correction in relationship to this one, which means there's a good chance we could come back and break this low. Now, all of that doesn't happen in a single straight line, but you can see the speed with which this went and the speed with which this went. There's a good chance we could go like this. Now, what the bigger picture will be like, that if I had all the charts here, I would tell you exactly what the possible pattern is going to be, right? Because it's always making a single pattern. But because I don't have that, I will give you the forecast for a number of possibilities. Now, there's a chance that this could be the very low of the chart. If this is the very low of the chart, we're not going to retest the low. But instead, what we will do is we'll make a bigger consolidation here and then continue to go back up. So you would see this turning out to be, instead of coming to break the low, go sideways like this for probably a year, 2-3 years, maybe even more, but then it's going to go back up. So you could be stuck here for a couple of years before you go back up. As you can see, we're in a monthly chart. So this will literally be about 5 to 6 years before it goes back up, right? That is one option. The second option is that we're making some kind of a, some kind of a channel at the bottom here. And if we do that, then we're going to come down like this, probably go back up there, come here, and then take off to the top. Now, those are the options, because I don't know what happened before in here. If I knew what happened there, I'd probably be more accurate in how I do it. And then what we're going to do now is say, those are the two options, right? One is to go sideways, the other one to drop. We will very quickly know what those options are. Within the next couple of months, I think within the next 6 months, we will start to see and figure out which one of those two options are developing. There might be a third and a fourth option, but I don't want to make it too complicated for you. So I'm going to leave it with those two options. And as it develops, we will tell you, well, those are the most likely one. We'll tell you what other options exist. But I think those are the most likely options to happen. Either a drop, break the low, or we go sideways. Now, if you're not a wave analysis trader, you may say, well, hey, you're just hedging your bet. You're saying it's going to go up or it's going to go down. No, what I'm saying to you is that for us to make a bigger forecast, we need to see what patterns are created. Now, on every given time frame lower from now, I would show you how you would know what the next possible move is going to be. Remember, you want to get the next possible move. You don't need to get the bigger forecast that is 5 years ahead. You need what we will bring you down to the 1 hour chart and show you what the 1 hour trade is. And the 1 hour trade would probably be in a consolidation right now. So let's go. Now, if you're looking at this chart, you may say, well, that's a serious drop. That's okay, not a too big drop. But you see, when they get a drop like that, they kind of consolidate here for a couple of months, which means we can expect consolidation somewhere here for a couple of months. And if that happens, you'll have to trade in that consolidation. In a monthly consolidation, we can easily trade and make money. That's possible. So we're going to bring you down now to the weekly. The weekly chart is pretty much the same as the monthly, except you might see some more details. And the details you can see is how this move came down. And the first thing you can probably immediately say, well, there was some kind of a consolidation here. then it drop and something is happening here that is not clear. Which means it's not just dropping, but it's kind of going down slowly, drip, drip in this piece here, right? So normally that would either be a channel or a running flat. So we'll go one step lower, put it in the daily. And I think we're pretty clear about this. Yes, you can make an argument for this to be some kind of a flat here. I think most likely running flat. It drops, and then you can see this doing exactly what I said, right? It's kind of curving. And when you see that curving pattern happening, you're thinking that, okay, two things could happen here. This is a running flat and we're going to drop through the bottom, or this is a channel in the making and we're going to go back up. So going back up doesn't necessarily mean breaking this stop. It's possible, but that doesn't necessarily what it means. It means that go back up, you make a consolidation here, and then you drop. We had that on silver. I think you guys remember the curve in the silver, right? So what we're going to look for here is, are these just small corrections in a channel to go up, or are they just running flat? So maybe the chart is just going slow because it's the end of the year, it's the starting of the year, they're moving really, really slow, but then it is going to drop. Well, these are very big ranges to trade in, especially if you trade in the 1 hour. So what we'll do is monitor what's happening here. The first thing I want to do is find the lowest spot. And I think this would probably be the lowest spot here. This one, we broke the low. So we just actually made a new low and we made an impulse up. Now, making a new low doesn't mean that's exactly the point of turning, or that's the lowest, that's the point where, you know, it's starting the first impulse. It could have been part of an expanding flat as well, or running flat, which means the chances are this could also drop. Not going far, but drop a little more like this. So we will not exclude that possibility for a running flat or an expanding flat. But most times when you get the low in a pattern like this, it could go higher. So we will go one lower to see which one of those is possible. And as you come into this, you would see the patterns clearly. I think we can all agree that this seems like a correction. This here would seem like a correction. This would seem like a correction. You got a number of them here. We have a sharp move here. I really don't have anything else. Maybe this one is the only one I'll probably go with for this. And then you kind of drop again, and then it pulled back and it started doing this. Here's a flat there, a 1, 2, 3. So this one could probably go with that, which means there's a high probability we could retest this low. Not going very far, but pretty much staying within that. One of the things we can do is take the curve line. We did that the last time. Let me see if I can find it, curve, and pull it from here. You want to bring this up here like that and kind of pull it like this. So if we're not going to break the low, what is likely going to happen is you'll start to see this curve happening. Without breaking out, they'll start to go back up. Once it breaks through that curve, we're going to assume that these are just small corrections, a series of small running flats for downside. Right? That's one of the things. So we will take this as a running flat. I think we keep an eye on this top here as well. We didn't break it as yet, so we're still within the possibility for a running flat. What we look for now in the 4 hour, on the 1 hour, is whether we have a trade between this range. From here to here, if there's a trade. And if there's a trade, we'll take it. So we'll go in the 1 hour and we'll look at it and say, the most common thing you would expect is that this looks corrective, but they did the same thing when they drop every time, right? If you look at the way it's dropping, is that would look corrective and then drop. So starting from this one, you would see that you make it drop, come back, kind of do this. And if you pull it like this, your thought process would be, well, maybe this could go back up. Instead of drop lower, repeat that process, drop lower, repeat the process here and drop again. So the whole thing of a channel is that it looks very similar as a running flat. So what we're going to do is we're not going to take any trade on this until we have a confirmation above here for the upside. Because this could still drop. Now, are we going to sell in this one? Absolutely no. Which means there is no sell set up as yet. There could possibly be a buy setup, and then we'll take that trade up. If not, it has to break out of this one, make any flag, then sell. Selling within this range here now on this smaller piece here is a really bad idea. Because it doesn't have to go far, right? They may just drop. It could drop again, probably drop to this level and then go back up. So as long as we're within that range and we don't have a setup, we'll just let it happen. And sometimes that's the best thing to do. Let it play out what it's doing in there, and then we will look for the trade setup. So right now it's just in consolidation, nothing we have here to trade. We'd let it happen the way it's happening, and then we'll come back to it. Silver, we'll go back to the monthly, take off everything. I think the monthly is pretty clear, right? We're in the consolidation. We're at the top of that consolidation now. So I'm just going to remove everything and put them back, remove all drawing. And I think if you were looking at a 1 hour chart, you'll say to yourself, this is a perfect flag. Let's look for a buy setup. If you were looking at a 1 hour flag, right? So let's come back here now in the weekly. This is a consolidation, regardless of what. We just don't know how far, or whether it's finished already, whether it's going to come back down one more, or whether it's going to go up now, right? So the top of the consolidation is here. See, we kind of tipped the top here again, once more. I think we even broke it out. Yeah, we did break that up slightly, but this is the top of it. This is the first impulse down. So although we broke that top, we didn't kind of go up. So sometimes that would be part of a running flat or the running flat. I think that might be part of a running flat, which means this move up might be just one move up in a possible running flat with this one. So I wouldn't be surprised if this happens and we come back here, make a new low, which means you get 1, 2, 3 like this. You get 1, 2, 3, and then go back up. And that is mostly because we broke the top, because I'm not inclined to put this as the correction and that is an impulse up. So we're not choosing that to be the top. This is the sharp impulse up. Now, can it come back, retest this low, then go? Very possible. So we'd have to watch. I'm putting a trend line here will be useless because we broke the top already. So the trend line wouldn't give you a lot of information. It will only give you information if you're breaking out of this consolidation that came down, the B part of it, if we assume that's a B part, or the C part of it, if we think this is the low. So that is irrelevant in terms of what part. What we need to do is what happens at this point. If we get a consolidation, we're going up. And if they do start to drop, we will see the sell setup, and then we'll take the trade. Right now, there is no sell setup because this last candle is the top. So when you go into daily, you'll see that. The highest part is this, so there is no sell setup as yet. And there is no buy setup. We'll still have to figure out whether this is some kind of a running flat. If that's a running flat, well, then yes, we could continue to go up and we will absolutely buy it. If that is not a running flat, then there's a good chance this will drop some more, make a flag here in the daily, and that would confirm the breakout of this and the total downside, which means retesting the low. Then the final move up. It will still go up, right? On the bigger picture, it's still upside. It's whether we'll retest this low or not. So in terms of divergence, I think we can see some little divergence inside of this at the top there. Maybe in the 4 hour, we'll start to see that better. There is a 1 pullback, so we'll still figure out where this is because we haven't got any sharp part for that. We'll decide if any one of these fits with this. That's on the 4 hour when we come. If not, I definitely wouldn't be putting it with this one. If not, we'll relook at it and see whether this could be one here and then go back up. So on this time frame, there's a chance that even if this comes here without any consolidation, go back up, we will definitely be retesting the top and we'll put this as a running flat. Right? Because this one is still an open one for us. If it makes any consolidation, that confirms the downside and we'll figure out which one we want to put that with, if there's any one that fits. So let's go. 4 hour. Like the dollar index, you started to see that top looking like either a channel or an extended running flat. I think we could probably make a series of running flats at the top there. The most common one is probably putting this one, probably a smaller one here. This would just be a correction. This is the top. There's a small flag, and this is either making it. So this would either drop through the bottom now, and then we will probably get better, bigger sell setups, which means deeper correction confirming the downside, or this is going to continue to go up. So we will look at the 1 hour for that. On the 4 hour, we have a lot of divergence, so it's not giving us much information, except that now we're in some kind of a correction. I'm very tempted to put all of this as one. We could either look at it like this, but there's a good chance that all of this might also be one big running flat. Right? There's a good chance that the possibility is what we're looking at is a big running flat there. A more complex one, right? Because I think we had this correct eventually. You come back to the fact that that might be this running flat. Those two look good. This doesn't have anything. We'd either go with the contracting flat. We had the possibility for a contracting flat there, or we'll decide whether we want to put it with this one. Or a running flat, a little weird one. This one is a little shorter, but that is okay. So on the top part here, we do. The only question is whether we're going to continue to go. And if this continues to go, it means we're going to go all the way to the top, because you're breaking out of the B corrective phase, right, of it. Or this is going to drop. So from this point, we can go to the 1 hour and decide which is most likely. I know none of them is more likely. Because it's, if you take this to be a correction in the downside, then it doesn't mean anything, because we don't have an impulse and a flag here as yet. And because this is already pulling back so deep, the chances are we might get more of a flat here. And if we do, then we're selling. What we're going to do is take this off. We're going to put the smaller version of it, which would be this one, or even this one. Could even go with this here. That's a possibility. Contracted flat, a smaller version of a because this one is really sharp up. Right? So we could either go with this contracting flat or a possible extended running flat. Either of those two would be possible and would be the right pattern. What happens here will tell us. So within today, tomorrow, there's a trade coming up. Either this consolidates here for us and we get a sell. Well, if it goes back up, it will be a tough buy. Because if it goes back up, you'd want to see if you're a running flat or something. You'd want to see this become the B part, pull back here for a running flat, and then assume that that one could go up. And that would be an assumption, because we'll still be in this down move. Right? So it can only break the top and drop again. The buy would be a tougher trade to take than the sell. But we'll see which one comes. Whichever comes, we'll take it. Right now, we don't have a trade in it. On the lower time frame, maybe, but we're going to deal with up to the 1 hour now. And when we get into the other sessions in the trading room, then we will look at lower time frame, whether there's a possible trade that is a little more aggressive trade. All right, so right now we just wait for the consolidation and we go with that. Gold. I think gold might be an easier one because it's moved up quite a lot and we're breaking out of the last consolidation. So there's a good chance that this could be the one that goes to the top. That's not a confirmation. That's just still possible, right? Now, we have had sharp moves like that before, like this, and they actually retest the low. So we can't assume that this is not going to retest the low, even if they're going up, probably come all the way to here and then go back up. So if silver will retest the low, if dollar index is making a channel to go back up a little, then we could see this drop here and then go back to the top. Now, this would be a perfect flat. I think that would be a perfect flat as it stands. We'll just go with a contracting flat in the middle there. And that would, by itself, would be a perfect flat. So this could either continue to go up, silver turns, go to the upside. Dollar index is a running flat and then it drops. And then everything will be in place. So we'll know that pretty soon. Within the next week or two, we're going to pretty much be able to confirm that. Daily. I think we broke out of everything except for this deep pullback that came all the way back to the low. This is a pretty sharp move to the upside. So the only possible thing that is not really perfect with this is the depth of this pullback. Well, let's see what happens here. 1 hour we're going up, so it's pretty clear. We do have some divergence, but that is, let's see in the 4 hour what that looks like. Yeah, that's pretty strong divergence. So we'll be cautioned with that. It doesn't mean we're not going to take buy setups. Divergence is never the end of the move. It means we'll be more cautious about them. And if you're taking any trade here, you'll have to take the buys as if it's the last impulse up, right? Which means you're gonna manage it really, really carefully. If we're taking any sells, it will be a good trade, because with divergence, a sell setup is a really good trade. Right now, we don't have any sells. I think it's most likely looking like a buy on the 4 hour. Let's see in the 1 hour what that looks like. Yeah, looks like a buy mostly. Well, nothing as yet. I'll pull this line only, because these are pull back deep. Now, if this is going to be a sell with a slow move down, and that happens sometimes where you make a really slow move down, you know, they kind of do this. If it's going to be a sell, you'll want to still wait for a flag here. Right? A flag here will confirm the sell. Selling into this here is not a good idea. But once you get the flag, that confirms that the first impulse was some kind of a leading diagonal in a much lower time frame, and the sell is good. So what we do is wait. Most likely it's a buy, especially if it breaks this low and start to go back up. I think we know what the buy setup would be. Now, remember, every buy setup would be treated like as if it's the last impulse up. And then you wait for the next setup, you take the next trade again. So you're going to get in, get out. Once it starts to consolidate, get out, wait for the next one and go. It can do that for a long time before they get a deeper correction. So gold most likely upside. I'm going to put that most likely as an upside. Wait for this flag to finish and then go up. Euro, go back to the monthly. So again, if you were following the charts for the very first of last year, our forecast for you was come break this low and then turn. Right? So every year we do this. January, you can go back, check my charts. It's on YouTube. So I don't know where it was January, but pretty sure we were coming to break that low. Because if it was still going up, we'd assume that it's coming to break this top and then turn. If it had turned, we'd assume that it could be a contracting flat, or it might still go up one more, come back, break the low. But the idea is that in the bigger picture, we'll have to come and break this low. Now, the only question we have, like in all of them, is whether this is the start of the upside, and that could be a big move up, totally out of this structure, or if we're going to make a consolidation here and drop one more time. Within this structure, that's not a difficult thing to do. It could come back here and then go. That would be way within the norm, right? So breaking the low by itself is not the end of the move. Now, we did break out of this, which we assume could happen. It's one single move up. Take this out and take this out. It's a pretty strong move, by the way. Unlike what dollar index is doing, this is a really strong move up, even in the weekly and the daily. That's really strong move up. It doesn't look like consolidation. You had a big flat here, which if you were following us again, you know we forecast that running flat and total upside after that. Now, this piece is not looking very promising. It's going really, really slow, but that's within the lower time frame. Let's take all of this out and we remove everything. So I'll put back this one because this is already confirmed, pretty clear. And then we'll look at the top here. Now, this is a relatively sharp piece, but it has a flat in the middle, so it could be something of its own. This one is the same thing. You can put this as a running flat if you want. It's not the best example of a running flat, but we could do that. You could put them as two separate flats. Nothing's wrong with that, right? Either way, these would either be three-wave corrections, three-wave impulses, or they would be together one big flat. And then from there, it starts with smaller ones here. I think this one is the top. Yeah, that is the top. The depth of this pullback is important because every time you see them pulling back so deep into that correction, into that impulse, sorry, when you see that deep pullback, you're always thinking flat possibility. You're always thinking this is a flat, which means this would go out. And if this goes out, it means we might be going much, much more up. We do have divergence. We will take it as the last impulse up and then see. Could it also go so deep to the top, but then instead drop? That is also possible. It's kind of rare, but it happens. So what we're going to look for is what happens in this piece. Right now, I think most likely upside. I think if we get a consolidation here, we can go for the buy. We just need to make sure that on the 1 hour it's a good consolidation, and I think it is. We're getting something like this. We do have this sharp one here. It's not connected to anything. It could be a lower degree correction. Together with this, I think that could be like a 5 minutes correction within this move here. This is a deep pullback. So it doesn't look like we're trying to drop right now. It's possible, but we don't have that. So the sell, we'll ignore the sell for now. We will take the sell in a much, if we're going to take any sell in this, it has to come through here, make a flag, and then go. We have to break out of this completely, not just break out of that low, but make a flag under that low. That's a rule. That's general rule we have, right? Make a flag under that low, and then that becomes a sell. And even that sell would be pretty, cautious, because once you break this low, it can go right back up. If we're consolidating, that's what it will do, right? It will drop, do this, come here, drop, go back up, either fast or either slow, and then drop again. And that would just become a bigger consolidation. So the sell will have to be more caution with the sell. But if you get a buy here within this range, which means you first want this to come back here. And if this becomes a buy, we'll take it. We'll take this buy. Once it gets here, we can put it to break even. So on the euro, we're looking for most of a buy setup with a flag. That is on the 1 hour, right? On the lower time frame, if anything, we'll come back and we'll look at it. So the bigger picture, the 4 hours is a buy setup, the 1 hour is a buy setup. Let's remove everything from this one and go to the monthly. So for those of you guys who just joined, once again, good morning to you and thanks for your support. I don't want to go into details of that in this one. I already spoke about it before we started recording. And what we're doing is we're going to do the majors in details, and then we will stop the recording and we'll continue for straight setups on all the other pairs. And the rest of the pairs will be recorded later for YouTube, because I want to go to the details of all of them, but that will take very long to do on a single webinar. So let's go. This is the Pong. Well, Pong broke the low. I think we've made an all-time low. Breaking this low here, I think give us an all-time low in the Pong. You can literally see that. This is probably the lowest it has ever been before. We retest that low. So the question here would be now, do we come back and retest any of these stops, this one or this one? And that will decide how we look at this whole piece. Right? Do we look at it as a single flat? Or do we look at this as the low, which means this is the flat? This is the low. And we are actually going back up. Now, what are the chances that, well, this also is not going up back, but retesting the low again? I don't see that possibility happening. I don't see a long drawn out running flat possibility anywhere that says, well, you know, that is most likely what it's going to do. I think this could eventually be the low. We're coming up. If we're going to try to go down back, this would have to be a flat, which means this would be the first impulse in another flat here before it goes down. So there's a higher probability that this would continue to go up rather than go down. And once we broke the low, I think that was over. That is what we came. That's the conclusion we came to. Once you break that low, the possibility is you're looking for more upside. I think it's a pretty sharp move. On this time frame, it looks like one single sharp move. On the daily, it's a little slow. I think you can see that it went up. It's a little slow. Coming down back. So let's see what we have. We had this single running flat here, just like the euro dollar. We had that single running flat in the middle. This is relatively sharp. It's not as slow as the dollar index. It's relatively sharp. But the main thing is we actually broke out of that already. So whatever we're doing here is either making a bigger flat like this, a big flat like this to go up, or even a bigger one to go up, which is most likely what I think is happening. But we can't make that decision because we only have one piece. And one piece is not a correction. What we look for is if this stays here and come back here, that'd be perfect. Because we will know that that is going up really big time. So this trade from here would be amazing. That doesn't mean we don't trade this and we don't trade that. Right? Can this come back and retest the low and then go? It could, but it's unlikely. It's very, very unlikely. Right? So go to the 4 hour. Yep. I think we were just dropping for the first impulse down, a little slow, but it did happen. And this could be the one that is going back up. Now, this upside might not be the big move we were expecting to the upside. It could be that they make a new high, then start a bigger consolidation because we broke out of this range here, that up move. I think this might just be the first impulse of a bigger flat. So buy setups, if we get, and I think we will get buy setups here, we'd have to be very cautious that we are in a B wave and that they might not go very far and very fast. So come on the 1 hour here. It looks like we're breaking out of this here, whatever that was. I think that could have been a channel that we broke. So the last part of the channel, or the last correction within that channel was this one. We broke out of that, make a new low coming up. We do have this sharp wave, and I think we have that in a few of them. This sharp wave here that is not accounted for. So we don't have anything sharp. I think this is more of a flat forming here. Going back up, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull back here and then go. And since this might be the B part of it, it could get much more messier than that. So there isn't a sell setup on it as yet. We don't have a sell setup. We're actually dealing with this. There is no sell setup, but we could get a buy. You'll have to use a bigger stop. Be very cautious about it. So first you want this to come back here. You want it to retest this low. And then we're going to see for that spike. So this also might be a buy setup based on this. Now, if they drop lower and we're going to get any sell setup, let's assume that was all and they're going to get a sell setup. We have to break this low and make a flag here before we consider any sell. Otherwise, they'll just tag you and go right back up. And if it's a contracting flat, it might not even break this low, right? This could stop right here and go back up. So we have a possible buy setup forming. Not ready as yet, but it's there. And we'll see what happens from there, right? It has the first retest this low. So they're going to come down a little more. That's not a lot. This is just dropping one candle to the bottom here. Then we'll expect that move up. We'll try to get the trade within this piece. We're not going to wait for a breakout here. We'll try to get a trade within the correction to the upside. Wait for a 15-minute flag, and then we'll take it up. All right, so most of these trades we might get much earlier than the breakout. As long as we see that they're going, because the chart is moving slow. We'll keep a bigger stop for in case there's a sudden, drop that is, you don't want to put your stop here, that will take you out. We'll put the stop much lower and because this sharp move is still open, right? It could just go break the top, pull back really sharp, really fast. You'll be stopped out and watch it go back up. So we're going to take into consideration possibilities they're making a running flat here. Because this is literally in this piece, see? We are not totally out of this sharp impulse. So we'll see how that goes. Aussie. Take off everything, go to the monthly. And I think the surprising part about the Aussie is the depth of this pullback. I think New Zealand would be the surprising one. This one did pull back pretty deep, not that much deep, but pretty deep. And we've got a sharp move, a relatively sharp move there. So if you looked at the Aussie forecast last year, I think we were still going up, if I remember clearly. We might have already been making this consolidation, which I did 2 forecasts on the Aussies, I think last year. One was before the year ended, where I showed you this and we're going to do this and then consolidate and then go up. And it means we've probably consolidated more than a year here, probably, or an entire year. It's 12 candles only. I think you have more than 12 there. This one is about, yeah, we have 20 bars. So that's almost close to 2 years. I think we were already in that consolidation coming down. So we made the consolidation. This is the impulse. The likelihood is we'll come back and retest this low. The lower this go, the more it means it's making a flat for downside. I don't think we're making a flat for downside. It means I think we'll come back pretty high, maybe even retest that top, but we will know about that later. Now, the only question we have right now is this the lowest point in that consolidation, or are we going to retest that low? Now, you notice there was a relatively sharp move here. If that has anything to do with what is happening here, right? If we would look at this as a running flat, it could retest the low and then go. If we look at this as some kind of a running flat for this one, or expanding flat in that case for that one, then this would just continue to go. And that's easy to tell. You just have to figure out what it's doing at the top here. I think we can all agree that it looks like a big consolidation happening at the top there, which means we could go up. So we'll look at the details of that. We also don't have divergence in it. In the downward, there's no divergence. So once this goes a little more, we'll have to be cautious. It could still be a running flat. On the daily, I think, I'm not sure if we broke that top, but if we broke that top, that would be significant. Let's see something. No, we actually didn't break the top. So this could possibly be making a bigger flat here, right? Like a 1, a 2, probably come back, retest this low, and then go. Right? I'll probably put this one as a running flat here. I don't think we have anything for this, but we could probably use this one as a running flat like that. And that means coming back to retest this low, if it does, would be important, because then we can assume that we're going to go back up. We'll relook at that, the details of that. We could also probably be using, this one didn't break the top. If this had broken the top, I'll probably use this as the running flat, right? Because you could get a smaller version of it there. And if this had broken the top, we'd assume that that is the very top, make a consolidation here and then go, or just keep going because you already have this consolidation, right? So since we didn't break that top, we're going to go back in the lower time frame and the 4 hour and see what it's doing at the top there. Yeah, we didn't break the top. So the possibility for one more down is really strong. And that's a sell setup we'll be looking for. We'll look for this to come and retest this low. Now, most of them have that possibility where euro should come down a little, pound should come down a little, and then go back up within the flat. In this case, this could be a sell because the distance to go is pretty huge, right? You can, if you get a flag here, we could put a stop here and go with this. So the sell on this one is a very likely trade, whereas on the other ones, we don't have that. Come on the 1 hour, let's see. Well, we don't have the sell set up as yet, but it's possible. You can make an argument for running flat in the middle here. And that just gives you a sell setup for the move down like this. We'll trade it to retest this low and then move your stops really tight or even take your profit. So what we want here is a flag. We don't have a flag, so we'll have to wait and see if this makes a flag here. And if we get that, we'll go for this trade. Can we buy it? Well, you definitely don't have a buy setup. If you're going to get a buy setup, this would have to be more of a flat before you buy it. And that will take a while. So this is the only one that has a possible sell setup if we get a flat. Now, we know that these three could go down some more. Yeah, this could come down a little more here. This one could come down a little more to this distance. And this need to break this low. So they all have a small downside in them possible. They can go further than that, but the minimum is coming to break those low. Those are not good sells. You probably, if you were in this sell already, it would have been a good sell. If you guys took this sell here already, right? If you took this one here already, which with this and this one in the 15. If you took that one already, then it's a good sell. But now to break this low is not really a good sell. There's a little flag there, but that's not really a good sell. So this sell is out, but the Aussie sell is possible simply because we're so high and the risk to reward in that trade to break this low is a good one, especially if you get a flag here. New Zealand monthly. And let's take out, well, we don't have much to take out here, so we can leave it. All right. Literally, this was a correction, but it did came all the way back to the low. Like literally almost retest the low. I didn't think we broke the low, but we came back pretty low. Now, when that happens, two things you're thinking, especially since the low is not. If the low is broken, we'd said, maybe this is the end of it, and we'll go look for a flat with this impulse in the past, which would make a running flat, right? We don't have that. So two things possible now. One is we either retest this low and then go back up, which means this would be the low, and then we're probably look for a running flat somewhere here. Or this is actually making the flat. So this one comes back here, make this the flat, and then we come retest the low and then go back up, right? Because once that happens, we will go back up. This is very corrective. So the question, if this is going to retest the low and then go, do we have any pattern to show that that is possible? Not really. All these are sharp. This was the only sharp correction here, but this is pretty big, much bigger than this. So I think this is the end of it. We're coming to retest this top and then go down. All we need is a consolidation here, and I mean a pretty good one. So we'll probably see this make something like this here and then upside. Similar to these, right? Similar to those, but more likely, yeah, something like this also. It could be a running flat. I don't think it's going to be a running flat. So we need to come and see what's happening in here. Go into daily and put this like that. We're already in a correction. We did break this low. So the question is it going up already? Take this out. This is useless. Pretty much, well, you can leave it, but it's pretty much useless. We already broke out. And go to the 4 hour. We want to see the break of this low. We broke the low, we have divergence, but we're not going up as yet. right? They did break out, they have divergence, but this is not exactly going up. Although this move was pretty sharp, right? The depth of this pullback is not really upside, because this would have just made a small flag and go, or probably broke this top and continue to go, right? So we'll just have to wait here. If we get a sell setup, better to sell the Aussie probably. If this is going to come lower, better to sell the Aussie, because this might make some kind of a correction of its own here, probably do something like this, go back there, then drop again. Because it doesn't look downside, and we don't have a buy setup here as yet. If it consolidates at the top here, if they consolidate here, then we'll consider the buy, but the consolidation here will not be a good one, because it will make the chart more of a corrective piece, bigger corrective structure rather than the upside. So we'll just wait on this one. CAD, monthly. So let me take this out. And I think we're still open with which direction this is going to go, which means, is this going to come retest that top, or do we retest the low and then go? It will go break the top. That's guaranteed. The question is whether we're going to have this as a 1, 2, 3, and then go, or if this is just a 1 that broke the low and decided to go up. I think there's a very, very high probability we retest the low, because the speed with which this is going up is really not so strong. But then this one did the same thing, right? This one went up really, really slow and still get all the way to the top there, because you had a flat here. We had a flat there, which is similar to this flat. This is relatively sharp. This one was more of a leading diagonal. I think all of you remember that. With a flat in here that took off, make a correction, took off, make a correction, took off. So if this becomes a correction, we're taking off. Let's see. Weekly. I think this flat is pretty clear. There are smaller versions of the same flat here. This one came down nicely. Let's take off most of those. Let me see. We can leave them, but the chart is still pretty clear, right? So come back to the daily. And this one looks like we were looking at this as a possible leading diagonal. I'm not sure if that is still so on the lower time frame. We'll come back to it. Let me take off most of this stuff. Let's take everything off. Right? We'll come back to all of that. What we're looking at is this piece, and we have this flat possibly forming here. See? That looks flat. And that means this could still go up. Now, this is a relatively sharp move down. Right? It's a relatively sharp move down. It's not slow, it's very sharp. This has a bigger flat in it. So even if this goes up here, it will not be the one that takes off. It could come here, come back down here, and then go, which means we'll get a bigger flat there. It's a lot of flats, put it that way. If we want to put this as 1, can we go with this here? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think it would be more like this, starting with the most corrective part, which would be this. Then you can go with this. Then you go with this. This would be a correction of its own here. That would be something of its own. So one big flat here, and we might be making another flat at the top there. Right there, possibly a flat forming here, because this is very sharp compared to what we're getting here. But the next move is upside. 4 hours. Yeah, the next move definitely looks upside. And that is regardless of whether we take this as the top, and we could take that as the top. Okay, this looks very corrective. I'm looking for a possible bigger running flat in that. I don't see it. But we look at this as a bigger flat in the making. I'll have to look at it very carefully, check it out. First, I'll put it here first, because this looks corrective on its own. This piece looks like a correction of its own, which means we'll exclude the possible leading diagonal we had here and probably just go with a running flat on this one. We'll relook at that later. But this is definitely correcting, which means this looks upside. And we already broke the low, right? Already broke the low here. You can make an argument for a 1, 2, 3, or maybe even more complex than that. So any sell setup here will have to be a consolidation under the low, which means we tag the low already. If this consolidates here a lot, then we'll consider this a short-term sell, right? If it doesn't, then most likely the trade we're looking for is getting a buy between here. Go back up, make a flag, go for that trade. And then expect that to break out. The breakout would only be coming to this stop. So we'll put the range we're trading in. That is the impulse, this one, and this. So the breakout will only be coming back here. If we don't get that and we see this more as a consolidation here, then we're going to drop, go back there, come back here, and then go. So I think if this becomes the bigger correction, I don't think this is all the correction. That's more of an impulse if this becomes a big flat. So it could be either a running flat or a regular flat on a bigger time frame before we go up. So in the 1 hour, we're looking for a trade for the upside, starting to get a flag somewhere here for the upside. Let's see if we get that. We're looking for a buy setup, short term. Most of them would be short term trades, right? 1 second, guys. Just give me a second. Swiss monthly. This one is becoming easy. It looks like there's a big flat going on here, right? This whole piece looks like a huge flat. Actually, it's from this top because there was a smaller flat inside here, a smaller flat than that. And this was the top. So I think we're doing something in here. Probably retest that low and then go back up. So come here to the weekly. It's a little clearer. See, this had an expanding flat in the middle there. And then we made a new high or this high. So what we're doing here is going in a consolidation starting from this point. See, we're in a consolidation. And if you put a trend line, it's going to be more like this. And something like this. And that means that in a pattern like that, we can retest the low. Can come back here and retest this low and then go. Or this here becomes a big flat and you just go. Right? Either is possible. So if we get a correction here, we're dropping to this low, we'll sell that. If it starts to go back up, we'll wait for a flag and buy it to break out. Now, can it be more complex than that? Of course. We're not going to go in a possible complexity unless we have all the complex pieces. We don't have that. So we only have this, so we'll probably go. I think we might end up. Think whether we'll put this one with that one, but no, they're not fitting. So here we want to see what this piece is doing. If this piece is making a flag here, a running flat here for downside, that would be a good sell. If it's actually making a channel for upside, we'll have to let it break out of the channel, make a flag, and then buy. All right, so which one is it going to be? Let's go back to the daily now. Yeah, not really easy to tell, right? The channel is possible, the running flat is possible. You can make an argument for a running flat there. You could also make an argument that it's a channel. So 4 hour, which one? Trying to tell which one it is will be a little difficult because the similar structure they both have. This is sharp, drop, correction, drop, correction, drop. This looks like a big correction by itself. Did we break that low? Let's see if we broke the low. We did, so this is a sharp one. So if you want to go with a running flat, you'll connect these two sharp ones, this one and this one. And that means we look for a sell, right? If we're not going with a running flat, but a channel or something like that, we're going to put it like this, right? This is the low, but this would be the last flat in that structure. This here would be the last flat in this structure. This would be the impulse, and we wait for a flag for upside. We don't have a flag. We actually drop back to the bottom. So I think the running flat is the most likely possibility. because we don't have a flag. Instead of a flag, it's already coming down. So that could be a sell setup there forming. We just need a flag here now. So if we get a correction in this piece, and we're getting that already, we just need to be more of a correction. And if we get that, we're coming for this trade to break this low, not only break the low, but probably drop all the way to the bottom, because we're going to assume that this here is all the correction. We're going to assume that this is the impulse. That is the running flat, and that means we're coming back here. So this sell is an absolutely very, very good sell. You want to take it and you want to see how far it goes. This looks like a correction. Let's go into 1 hour. Yeah, it looks good to me. 1 hour looks good to me. So that sell setup we're definitely going for. There is a sharp move here, but it could be either a 5-minute correction, a lower one, or it could be a running flat somewhere in the future. We'll still take the trade and we'll manage it. We'll keep the stop a little bigger, increase your risk, keep the stop bigger, and see what happens. So this is going to go up a little more. Probably retest this stop, but we're looking for a sell setup. So I actually like this one. This one could be pretty good. Let's see. Do we have a place we can put the sellers yet? Not as yet. Let it break this stop here first. But we could possibly come down here first. See this? Don't sell the breakout. It could come back here. Make a bigger flat. Go back up. This would be a 1, 2, 3. A 1, 2, 3, and then drop. So don't sell the breakout here. Wait for them to break this low and make a flag. Because that possibility exists. This is corrective, and that is within this one. See this here, right? This is a correction, and it's within this piece. It's within this impulse. So we still have to come back down here and then go back up. And then the sell becomes interesting. So we're looking for a sell setup. It's not ready. Let's go to the yen. And monthly. And this one is really interesting. Well, it looks like we might be making a correction there before we come down. This could end up being a bigger correction here. And then we'll probably get a drop somewhere in this distance before we go back up. I think this is pretty clear. We're looking at this as the corrective part here. This piece, sorry. As a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then go back up. Let's see. If we're wrong about it, it's just going to continue to drop. Right? And if you're right about it, then it's probably going to come about here and then go back up. So far, this chart has been easy for us. So there were a lot of sell setups all the way from the top coming down because we expected that. Daily, yep, you could have seen the sell setups there dropping. It's quite a lot. I think all these drops were really good. This was the last one, you guys. I hope you guys got that trade when I wasn't here. But it was an easy one to get. Right? Putting your entry order under this low was an easy thing to do. That's a no-brainer. So let's take this out. And since there was nothing else but sell on yen, that would have been easy to do. Right? So let's see. It dropped, it break the low, it's going back up. Might be starting that bigger correction. So sure, if we get a buy setup, we can take it. Let's see in the 1 hour. Go for the buy. This is not much of a buy setup as yet, but take the trade and with caution. Keep a stop under this low. This could correct much deeper before the next drop. Because you see in the weekly, that single drop is pretty huge. So I think we have a lot of divergence here. That confirms the possibility of this. This could have been a buy. I don't know if any one of you took it. There's an expanding flat here. That could be a buy there. But wait for this. It might consolidate somewhere. Is it possible that this could drop? Yes. Keep a stop here. If this is going to drop, it's not going to drop now. It will probably, if you get tagged and it pull back like this, it will probably do this, go back there, break the top again, and then drop. So if it comes deep here, go back there, get it to break even or get out of the trade. Right? Now, can this one go? It could go. If they're going for a deeper consolidation, this is the first impulse up. So the buy setup is still good. This would be a buy setup. We can actually put an aggressive buy already and monitor it. Keep a stop here and then monitor that trade. We're looking for a deeper pullback after a sharp move like this, a relatively sharp move like this on the weekly. These are smaller pullbacks, smaller correction. Now we could get a sharp impulse, flat here, and then drop. So we could be stuck sideways here for about a month or 2 or 3 and then drop. So let's see. Oh, sorry, yeah. So that's the last one, right, of the majors that we're looking at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording now. This will be on YouTube. I hope you guys can go and share your views on it and like and support. And if you're watching it on YouTube, if you're one of the thousands of people who watch it and you like it, please click the like, please make a comment, please share it, because you will help someone else to see the chart, and that would be good for, for them. They'll probably learn something. There are about 90% of, I would say 95% of struggling traders in there, and there are 9 million of them out there trading, retail traders. And that is why the most popular thing to do now is to open a brokerage. Literally, while I was off, I got contacted by about 20 different brokers to promote the videos I do. Literally, they're willing to pay me a lot of money for every single video I do. All I'll have to do is say, hey, you may want to trade with this broker. You just have to have their name somewhere and a logo somewhere, or probably think I refused all of them. And I think I will continue to do that for a very, very, very long time. Because I haven't found a single broker that I really think I want to work with and promote. I think we know a lot about brokers not to do that, right? So I know after this video, they'll probably not contact me anymore, but that is okay. I haven't been replying to a lot of them, and I have most of them. The only thing I'll offer to brokers, if you want to contact me, you're watching this video, is I would do free educational webinars for you and for all your clients. And if you want to advertise it and bring more clients to your side, it's up to you to get clients. I know you need clients, but I will only offer free webinars, nothing else. So any contact with me is to say, hey, we're doing a series of free webinars. We'd like you to be one of the presenter for a show, and for 1 session or 2 sessions, I'm willing to do that. Otherwise, that contacting me for anything else would be useless. So thank you guys, and especially my YouTube viewers. I would like you to share this, because the only way you get other traders to see the way wave analysis work and how forecast is done is by sharing this video with them. Thank you very much. The remaining charts are coming later today or tomorrow. By the end of this week, I'll have all these out, and then we'll be back to normal from next week. If you would like to have more of it in more details, send me a Skype message. The Skype is in the description. Thank you very much. Trade with care, and have a good week ahead of you. Bye.